You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm Travis Hymas, and there's no John Negroni here this week because I have dispatched him to the land of Wano to beat. Well, I can't spoil anything because I'm joined today by Allie Johnson, our editor in chief, once again.
Thank you for allowing me back. Sorry, John isn't here as well to add his 2 cents on what we're going to be talking about, even if I have feelings I disagree with some of them.
We will get into. I'm sure since John is absent, we'll definitely have to do some light slander, if only because he's having a good time in Japan. But we're going to be talking this week about the spring anime season for 2024. Pretty exciting stuff coming through the pipeline. Some of it's already out, some of it's not. We're pretty excited overall. But really quick first, just a note: if you want to follow John's Japan adventure, which currently he's apparently just waiting for the One Piece store to open, as is his duty that I assigned him when he left. If you want more updates on that, you know where to go. That's our Discord channel, which is in the show notes. But it's not just a channel for John to travel log. It's also a place where you can hang out with us and talk about the things that we're covering on InBetweenDrafts.com. TV, music, movies, games. There's always something going on in there. There's a lot of talk, of course, about the current spring season. A lot of people have been sharing their early thoughts and impressions, but we're also talking about things. We did a little reminiscing about the 3DS last night as we said farewell to the Nintendo Network. There's been some chatter about some Newport music scene things and more going on the music channel. I honestly have no idea what they're talking about in there because I am not talented, but check it out. Come hang out with us. It's a good time. But if you're a little bit shy, you do want to give us some notes on the podcast, correct mine and John's various incorrect One Piece theories and more, you can also send us an email at rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. And I will say it again, rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. I'm looking in the corner. Our producer, Rookie D Pirate, is breathing a sigh of relief because I didn't do any bits. But there's a reason I didn't do any bits, Rookie D Pirate, and that's because, Allie, we cannot do this properly without doing a quick check-in. Since the last time you were on and talked about where you were in One Piece, we both know that you've been way further ahead since then.
Yeah, I have to admit to lying, to a little bit of a fib, just to keep things up to date with Evan, who, bless him, chose to have more of a life than I have this winter season, or I guess spring now. But yeah, I'm happily in Whole Cake Island. About 830 episodes deep. You could say I have a bit of a problem if I don't watch an episode of One Piece a day. Have I truly lived? But yeah, I am deep into it, and it is easily becoming one of my favorite arcs, if I'm using the right term. I think last time I got a bit of a tap on the head for saying it wrong, but I do believe this is one of my favorite sagas, arcs, what have you, that I have experienced so far in One Piece. Loving it. Poor Sanji.
Oh yeah, I knew, you kept saying while we were recording, even the last episode you were on, about how much you want to talk about Sanji, and I'm like, I can't let you do that yet. I can't let you do that yet. We're not there.
What are you talking about? Fish Island Sanji's peak him.
Peaks, yeah, definitely peaked something. But yeah, no, I knew you were gonna absolutely eat up Whole Cake, which is grand, because you're so close. Before long, you'll be doing chapter reviews with me and John, just to stay sane. It'll be great.
Well, yeah, we'll see. There's a chance things could slow down. We're getting to the summer season. Maybe I'll be busier, breathing fresh air. Maybe not. But I'm very excited where I am, and I'm officially in my like ranking all of my arcs saga.
Oh, that'll be we you'll actually be able to listen to that episode too. That'll be great. We'll get some traffic on some old eps. Not going to complain about that. But we are going to talk about spring 2024. Just as a quick note to the listeners, this is pretty early on in the season. A bunch of the stuff we plan to cover hasn't even aired yet. We got literally new information this morning about things that we'll have here internationally as well. So please check out your respective streamer schedules for the full list. But we're going to talk about some things that stood out to us. And Allie, I know you've been hard at work already doing coverage and watching things, so I'll let you take the lead.
Sure. So I think for me, I was kind of like, I knew my big shows were returning ones for the most part, like My Hero Academia. So this season, I kind of came in like not totally knowing what to expect from some new releases. I think my favorite of the ones that I've gotten to see so far is Windbreaker from Cloverworks. And full disclosure, also, I kind of assumed this was going to be like a Tokyo Revengers style show just based on the previews that I had seen, which didn't really interest me because I kind of bailed on that show pretty quick. But this one I think differs. Well, I guess first, a bit of a synopsis is that it's about a high school student, Haruka, who decides to transfer to a new high school because he knows that their reputation is a little bit more rough around the edges. And he's had a bit of a bad reputation about himself growing up because of his appearance. He's had a hard time from family and friends and peers. But what he doesn't expect is that the delinquents that he seems to want to face against are actually people who are protecting the new town that he's moved to. So it kind of fosters this more like warm energy than you're expecting. And I think it all comes down to the fact that the lead character, Haruka, is so lovable, so easily flustered by kindness. There's a lot of details in the background settings that kind of adds its own character to the town that he's living in. And Cloverworks really goes off on the action scenes. Like there's a centerpiece sequence that is stunning to watch. So it really surprised me, honestly. I kind of, again, I think I so assumed it was going to be a Tokyo Revenger style show. And what I got was something more akin to like Skate the Infinity, where it just exists in this world that is heightened and you kind of just don't question it. You go along with it. And then you find the emotional beats within the, very bombastic, ludicrous kind of situations that you find yourselves in.
I mean, honestly, comparing it to something pretty unique like Skate is pretty high praise, in my opinion.
It's kind of more in like tone and feel than it is like the actual storyline. But I just think that sometimes when you go for these shows that are about, very heightened situations, there's a need, even in anime, which is ridiculous to me, to kind of ground it. And there is like humanity in the show. And there is, again, it's grounded in the fact that the character is finding himself amongst people who accept him. But I think the fact that it kind of goes for broke in the visuals and in the action is where it kind of finds its footing, so to speak. Definitely worthwhile. And again, Clover, not that I like to promote, I'm not a fan of a studio. I'm a fan of the people who make the work of the studio, but Cloverworks does tend to put out pieces of art that I tend to really like to champion. So it's worthwhile. The second episode, I believe, is out on Tuesday or this Thursday. So keep an eye out for it.
And that's Windbreaker. That's on Crunchyroll. You mentioned, though, that you were mostly excited for returning shows, so I guess we better get the obligatory My Hero Academia conversation out of the way. That's what I'm going to double back with. It's just all right. Let's talk about Hero Aka coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I am a huge fan of this show. I've started reading bits and pieces of the manga because I just simply can't wait. So I do know that this upcoming season probably isn't going to be like, I see it being more of a season 5 in terms of the material it's going to be crossing, and that it's kind of more obligatory. Like we need to go through it to get to the bigger parts. That said, it's like a comfort watch for me. I mean, I just love these characters so much. Like I love the themes of, camaraderie and friendship and what it means to grow as people in this time period. The fact that it's coming of age story set with a superhero world. So I know we don't always see eye to eye on the specifics of the show, but I definitely like it being back in my rotation just brings me a kind of level of peace.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I have been reading it the whole time, and it's wild because that started as watching the anime. Anime was immediately recommended to me. I was like, cool, I'll go check it out. Thought it was very strong. Pretty much immediately pivoted into reading the manga once I was caught up. Like, it was peak for to borrow the community phrases. It was it's really, really strong. The second and third seasons in particular are still some of probably the best of its genre for the past, I would say, 5 to 6 years, depending on how far back you want to go. It's really, really hard to top some of the stuff that they've got going on. It's just it's two different things. The first is that Hiroaka has evolved as a story in a direction that I don't think necessarily everybody agrees with. There are a couple of various plot points that have divided the fan base. There's going to be another one this season, so we'll see how Bones handles that. And all of that is outside of their control, right? Like, it's not their fault that Horikoshi makes those bold decisions. I think most of the time it works out for the story's benefit that it goes the way that it does. I am, controversially one such person that's like, yeah, it's okay they haven't killed All Might in the show yet, because he's more interesting as a character who has to deal with the consequences of his beliefs rather than dying a martyr. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. The One Piece philosophy, so to speak. But some people disagree, and that's just how it is. In the case of actually handling this part of the story, I am glad that they're sticking pretty firm to the seasonal format here, because that at least tells me that the pacing will probably be good, which, where the story is about to head into, is going to be for the best. I don't always like Bones' decision to trim the fat, especially on certain story arcs, but it's going to be necessary going forward. And I'm very interested to see where they decide to cut this season off, because I somehow doubt they're going to fit all of the rest of the series into a single season, because it ain't done yet. So, but it is coming back. We're also getting, on the Hiroaka front, we're getting a special OVA that kind of does a recap of where the story has been so far, which is at this point kind of necessary, weirdly enough, because it's like season 7. So, but it will have new scenes. I don't know if those are remade scenes or if there's going to be new content. That's also going to be coming to Crunchyroll here pretty soon. And we also get, I don't know if you knew about this, but we are getting the 4th Hiroaka movie as well.
Yeah. I'll probably end up seeing it just because I've seen all the others, and I still think that Heroes Rising is one of the best My Hero media things that the franchise has done. So if anything ever lives up to that, I'm always keeping an eye out for it. I don't think I'm super excited in the same way that I wasn't I didn't love the last one, but I thought it was fun. And again, to me, anytime to exist with these characters. But I think what I have learned since reading the manga is, one, his art style is amazing, and Bones does struggle sometimes to fully replicate that, but that's the same with a lot of adaptations, unless it's dependent on the studio and the people doing it. But there's certain scenes that I've seen recently in manga chapters where I'm like, oh, how are they going to do it? But it is what it is.
I don't want this to be the Hiroaka Cope hour, but you make a really good point that it gets harder and harder to adapt this the longer something goes, right? Like it's no longer the premiere series that Bones is even working on right now as we speak, right? They had their own original series that was out just last season. So the idea that what it would take to get every single frame to match that kind of intensity. And look, when Horikoshi cooks, he cooks hard. So it takes a lot of resources, and that costs money, and you got to figure out how to make that work. And Hiroaka is still very clearly profitable for the studio and for the project, but I mean, let's be honest, it's season 7. People often don't talk about old series like this that we've spent this much time talking about. Is probably going to annoy people because they're like, get to the new thing. But that is a factor to keep in mind. Yeah.
And I do think it's important to remind people who are griping about that, talk about the old thing so you get more seasons of that old thing, because I feel like things like My Hero Academia, which I'm sure you all have talked about, are going out of style. I am so sick of these 13 episode seasons.
Oh yeah, I mean 10 even sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
Which,
making anime is rough. Even getting 10 episodes to 13 episodes out the door is hell sometimes, but
oh, sure. And it's not on the
yeah.
animators or anything like that. It's just the industry as a whole. So it's just one of those things to remember that, like, you know,
Oh yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
don't forget about the old thing just because there's new, fresh things in your vision, you know?
Yeah, and you know, for what it's worth, at least the Hero Aka production has been pretty straightforward. It doesn't have any like bumps, any changing of hands. There hasn't been like any extensive delays or anything. Even the movies, they're not cranking out these movies so much that you think that they're burning people out. Like overall, it's a much more solid production than even like other stuff that people love, like One Punch Man, which is apparently going to show its face again later this year. We'll see how
Which
that goes.
I wonder if this is also a good way to lead into this, but like it also doesn't do movies as a way to kind of like cheaply uh I don't know, extend resources, like, sorry, but like Demon Slayer where they do a movie and it's like it's actually just the first 3 episodes of the new season.
I saw you going for that, and
I know. I'm sorry.
no, it's good, because I was gonna transition to that too. Also, Demon Slayer's coming back. We were surprisingly almost through Demon Slayer in terms of narrative, if I understand it right. Because it's
Are
not one
we?
that yeah, actually, we're
Okay.
closer to the end of that one than you'd think. We'll see how that goes. Demon Slayer is always a banger though visually. I
Yeah.
know some people think that it's kind of thin on the storytelling. It's a little bit more traditional shonen, but like, hey, that's not a bad thing. Like, there's
I
a
actually
reason it's so much fire. Like,
I think my problem, and I'm gonna watch. Like, this is not me just complaining. Like, I will be watching week to week because I have fun watching it, and I do have some like emotional ties. Kind of. My problem is that I actually think it had so much potential to be a deeper story than it is because it chooses to focus on like characters that aren't that interesting and like introduces supporting characters. I don't know. It's why the last season was oddly my favorite. It's because they trimmed the fat of the less interesting characters to me to focus mainly on like the heart of the story with actually interesting, layered supporting people. But I will
nah,
still be watching.
yeah, I
So,
do want to undercut that very thoughtful criticism with in our private conversations, just so everybody knows. It's literally they got rid of Tanjiro's dumb little buddies. Like that's why.
I know
Uh,
everybody loves Inuasuke, but like he's just noise sometimes.
he is a one-track mind, that's for sure. That is for sure. I mean, I don't really have any like that's the thing about like these returning series is like you don't want to spoil anything. This is the Hashira training arc for Demon Slayer, so it is if you remember all those cool Captain-esque characters for my Bleach comparison fans, you know, that's going to be working. It's going to be bringing all of them forward, kind of centering them as characters, which the other previous arcs have done in bits and pieces. But this will be the rest of the core. So it looks like we'll get more interesting characters out of that. So hopefully for the best. I'm going to shift gears a little bit to just another one that Crunchyroll does have, because it is an old and a new thing at the same time, and that is the Spice and Wolf remake. Full title is Spice and Wolf: Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, that started just a little while ago on the 2nd of April. Did you ever watch the original Spice and Wolf, Allie?
No, it's one of those ones that I haven't caught up on, and I don't think I even really knew much about prior to this new adaptation or recontinuing whatever.
Spice and Wolf is one of those ones that's kind of a classic. It was back in 2008 when it was animated, but the light novels were running in like 2006. And it's kind of the prototypical this is going to sound mean to fans, but it's the prototypical furry waifu genre. I mean, it checks all the boxes, but it's actually very it's very kind of cute and wholesome. It's more in a fantasy genre, along with things like Free Ren's a good comparison, just in terms of that it's mostly about the journey rather than the destination. But the anime adaptation wasn't able to cover everything before it ended. It was one of those ones where it got a couple of seasons and then that was it. It was done, but there was still so much material. So there's an entire like back half of the series that built, and it's all about building this romance between Lawrence, the merchant, and Hollow, the wise wolf, literally the title of the show. And This version starts right out of the gate, basically from the end of that story. It's vague enough that you're not entirely sure what it's about, but for fans, it's basically the signal like, yes, this is your Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood moment. Like, we're going to do the entire thing. And I've watched the first couple episodes of it, and it is very much appropriately cute. Hollow is a character who is a bit of a head, which is great. It's a little, she's not tsundere like a lot of people would say about characters like this. She's more of just she likes kicking the hornet's nest a little bit, but also is also able to understand the space that she's in. There's moments where she'll say something that, like in the second episode, that just absolutely triggers an emotional response in her new companion, and she's just like, "Oh, I messed up hard," and that's an important thing to do really early on. I think it's already kind of a very warm relationship. Again, this is really well worn material. People love this story, so getting to potentially see it all the way through this time is something very exciting for people. That being said, it's all, like I said, it is the prototype for a reason. The first episode, Hollow spends 90% of it naked. Just what it is. I don't really have a way around that, but it is cute. It's, it's got the light novel tropes, but it really does feel modern in this adaptation. The studio's Passion, spelled with an E at the end there, and they've got a really nice aesthetic. It's got some really nice, kind of fantasy village music. Yeah, I think people are going to fall in love with this one. The fans are definitely going to love it. It's good that they're getting this back. And to your point, it's actually going to be a full 25 episode season, so they are really going to actually adapt everything this time.
Nice. Yeah, it's one that I've heard about now in like the new season. Like there's a website I follow sometimes, Anime Feminist, and they took more of a positive lens towards this, saying that while there was the nudity, it did seem like it was more tastefully done than it might have been done in the past, and it's purely like functional. Like this is just what would happen if the spirit was to come to life. So I'm not so worried about that.
Yeah, it's definitely not lewd for the sake of it. Again, I think I owe that more to the adaptation's decisions more than the material, but yeah, it's she's naked because she just transformed and can't spawn clothes, and like there's lines about it, and she's like, "Oh, it's cold every time I do this," and like they make a point of the clothes that she gets later. Like it's narratively there, but again, it's a light novel from 2006. You why it's written the way that it's written. Let's be honest.
Do the best we can.
What else do you have on your list? I know you got a long one.
Long one? A list. Yeah. Well, I already have checked out A Condition Called Love. It's one of the new shoujo series this season from East Fish Studio, which I wasn't very familiar with. It's set in high school, which I feel like after seeing A Sign of Affection during the winter season, I liked having an adult relationship, so to go back to high school sometimes, but it's so predominantly what the most popular series are in shoujo, it seems. But it's just about, a woman, or a teenage girl who doesn't really understand the concept of love, is happy and content to just be with her, friends and family. But there's this boy who falls heads over heels for her because she demonstrates like a very selfless act of kindness. And I think he will be the character that divides people who are watching, because I feel like media literacy is so poor these days that him being very eager and very puppyish and his, affections for her might translate into being pushy. But I do think overall it's a sweet adaptation, because it does show how, people approach love in very different ways, and her not necessarily understanding it, but it also shows that he doesn't really understand it either, even though he's more confident in his declaring his love for her. But I think there's a lot of cute sequences in it. I do think there's some lacking in some of the animation, especially backgrounds, that I'm curious to see if that will change going forward. Was it a staff thing? Was it a stylistic change? Because I know people really do love the manga. But again, they're lovable characters, and some of the animation still works. There's a lot of detail work in some of the more emotionally pivotal scenes that work well, including one where they're out in the snow and she finds him digging for something for her, which is kind of the big breaking moment where she's like, you love this way and this isn't good, which I do think the series is smart to like kind of highlight that what he's doing is not right. But yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one. I really love this genre. So I'm starting to scale things based on like, the big hitters like My Love Story, like Love is Hard for a Nutaku, the stuff that really like just gels with me. So like I don't think it's gonna be the next Skip and Loafer. I don't even think it'll necessarily be the next A Sign of Affection. That was really wonderful from Winter Season, but I think it's charming and I think it's cute, and I think people who like this genre and kind of like it again as like a comfort viewing, it'll be worthwhile. But episode 2 will definitely be a better indicator on like where the show is going.
Yeah, that's always the fun part about this. The talking about these is like, oh, this looks good. Oh, this seems promising. But sometimes you just got to find out when you find out, right? I do like that romance anime has become more of a priority to get simulcasting and more available to people, because it even like 5 years ago, I don't know that I would have sat down and talked at length about a condition called love with somebody, or even Spice and Wolf, even though I knew what it was, right?
Yeah.
So it has a much more prominent place in the mainstream, at least in Western discourse now, which is very, very good. A good sign of just more diversity in our genres, which is, I think, really important. Just because there's so much anime to begin with. And speaking of finding out if something is good or not, I got a bone to pick. I'm going to do this right now. This is a bone to pick with Hulu, which means I actually have to talk to the Disney CEO, Bob Iger, who is a regular listener of Rookie Pirate Radio. He's always emailing in to try to correct our One Piece theories. Bob, I know you're listening, and I just need to sit you down. Look, my guy, if you're gonna spend the money to get the streaming rights for a couple of the best anime of the season, that I have personally seen so far, like really strong starts, my guy, you have got to advertise them. You have got to make them easier to find, because we're 2 years into this now, where some of the best, most interesting stuff is basically completely devoid of conversation because you refuse to advertise it. Anyway, I would like to talk about Sandland for a moment. Allie, you liked Trigun Stampede, didn't you? You were a big fan.
You could say that. Yes.
Yeah,
I adore it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sandland is not Trigun Stampede, but it has some things in common with it.
A desert?
It's it's set in a desert, but specifically, not just the desert environment, but the idea of kind of like a Western swashbuckling thing using 3D animation. And this is from a studio called Anima, doing the 3D animation. And notably, it is an adaptation of an older Akira Toriyama work. It's actually kind of impressive, because just basically randomly, Bandai Namco decided to license the heck out of Sandland, which has just kind of always existed, but has never really been talked about to the same kind of degree as other Toriyama works like Dragon Ball and everything. So like this adaptation was in the works, and a movie was in the works, and a game, which is coming out like next month, were all put into production. They're all starting to hit, and Toriyama passes away tragically. We've talked at length about that on the podcast. I don't want to dwell on the sad part. What I will say is, they did a really good job on this adaptation. It looks incredible. I think some of that is out to the fact that like it's really easy to take Toriyama's designs and turn them into a 3D thing, because the Dragon Quest games have been doing that forever now. But doing that for something that wasn't designed to be a video game, that wasn't designed to be like this 3D animation, it is right up there with Orange's animation. It might be a little bit better, even, I'm willing to say. It is a lot of fun. But Sandland is about the son of Lucifer, who teams up with a human sheriff, his advisor named Thief, and they go to find one of the only sources of water still in this world, this war-ravaged world. It's very clear what happened to it, and the sheriff is like an old, tormented soldier of war, just trying to do right with the last days he has left. And this little demon kid, Beelzebub, basically thinks he's this cool guy, but he's literally a kid, and so there's just a lot of humor that comes from him acting tough, but also very much isn't, because he doesn't know what that means really, and it is so much fun. It's so full of just well done punchlines. It has cool action sequences. It's got a wonderful OP. Everything is animated in the same style. I'm very, very pleased with it. And I hate that the first time I sat down to watch this, I literally couldn't do it because Hulu couldn't even bother to get the subtitles working the first week that it was out. They dropped the entire season and then you couldn't watch it. I actually tried to watch it with people and had to restart the Hulu app multiple times, tried multiple accounts, couldn't get the subtitles to work. It was very disappointing. And that's, of course, the fact that you cannot just find this thing. It's not advertised at really anywhere unless you already knew to look for it. At least Sandland's easier to search than another Hulu series we'll get to. I'm really, really bummed that this series deserves its moment. It would have deserved its moment even if Toriyama hadn't just left us, but it deserves it that much more now because we may never get to have something like this again. And it's going to completely miss the conversation because they just will not tell people this exists. There's a video game tie-in, and I've literally seen more coverage of the video game in the press than of this series. It's very disappointing to me, but I am loving it. I look forward to finishing it. I haven't they've dropped it all, but I haven't quite finished it yet. But it is a grand adventure time, and you should watch it. If you're listening, you should watch Sandland. You'll enjoy it. Beelzebub forever.
Yeah, that is true. That I feel like Hulu in the last year or so, like Undead Unluck, Summertime Rendering, Heavenly Delusion.
It's a
are all
crime.
shows that I've adored and I think are like some of the finest examples in the genre medium right now. And yeah, it's like I wouldn't have known. But Sandland's one that's like, it's been like kind of on my list. It's one of those ones where I do feel like maybe because I missed a lot of his other previous works, it won't land in the same way. And it definitely has a nostalgic kind of aesthetic to it. But Quinn will probably want to watch it, and I'm on that couch too, so I'll probably end up checking it out.
It's one of those, like, if you because again it's just a mini series adaptation, so like unlike several other things that he's done, there's no Dragon Ball association to this. There's no need to know like his whole history or anything like that. Again, this is kind of the perfect series to have in this moment. Like, it's a tragedy that we lost him, but it knowing that a great adaptation like this happened and was in the works, and that he got to see at least some of that in the form of the film that came out in Japan, is at least a little bit calming. It's nice to know that he will, in fact, be known not just as the Dragon Ball guy forever. But I do recommend it. I think it's a lot easier to watch just this and enjoy it for what it is than like try to go watch Dragon Ball if you've never done that before. Not to say that you shouldn't, just, time is a thing, and you've got plenty of One Piece still to watch.
Yeah. Dwindling, but yes. Dwindling, I mean. But yeah, no, it's on my list. It's one of those ones that I will absolutely get to by the year's end. To pivot, I guess, to a much different tone and energy, and it's easily available because it's Mappa and because it's on Crunchyroll, so the exact opposite of what you're talking about. I will be checking out Oblivion Battery. It is a sports anime, so I am almost like, I have to. It being by Mappa, people forget that there's just as many misses for Mappa as there are wins. And a lot of them, the misses tend to be sports anime unless it's Yuri on Ice. But I will be checking it out. It's just came out today on Crunchyroll. It's about two players who grew up together. And we're really in sync, and we're a very formidable pair, and then one of them gets amnesia. If we're going full soap opera territory, and it's about just them relearning both how to be friends and also how to be that kind of dynamic duo on the field. It looks like it skewers much more in this vein of like broad comedy than I was expecting. But I'm just excited to check it out. I think it has a fun premise. I've seen the OP and the ED, and I think those are very charmingly done. I'm not sure, again, if it's going to be one that's going to reach the heights of Mappa's other series. But I am curious to see how it plays out based on the talent that they can usually get on board. I know that Madhouse has done some of the animation outsourcing stuff, so I think that'll be interesting. But again, it's mainly just like sports anime. I kind of have to give it a shot. And depending on how the premiere goes, I might be having something written for us. So we shall see. I don't know if this is this. I don't know if this is one that you would be checking out.
I mean, if it's bad, I might be compelled to just to see a Mappa L. You know what I mean? You don't say. Working the staff to the bones means that some anime suffer. Who would have guessed? Not me.
Yeah, right.
But I don't want things to be done. In all seriousness, sports anime for me are kind of a weird thing because like I'm not a super sporty guy. Like I understand sports. I'll go to a basketball game. And things like that. But like for me, it's and we should just mention Haikyu right after this anyway.
Right.
But it's like a Haikyu or like a slam dunk situation. It's a lot less about the sport and a lot more about who's playing it that usually sells those to me. I think that's why like
Exactly.
Blue Lock is so successful, is because you get invested in the risks that those characters are going under rather than the soccer of it all.
I guess.
But but that's just me. I know there's a lot of people who adore sports anime, but we did hear about a Haikyu movie coming, right?
We did, and I want to specify too that like a lot of sports anime also premiere does, but I'm always chasing I want the next Haikyu after watching all of Haikyu, and that's why I'm so excited for the new movie. I believe it's one of two. It's coming out on May 31st in the US. I'm very excited by it because I just love and adore these characters so much. I love the art style. I love the journey that they've been on. The fact that it seems like even though, it's only been like a year in their time, it still feels like we've seen so much progress. So I'm excited to see this like very definitive showdown between them and I'm forgetting Kurosan. No, I'm forgetting the name. Whatever. But you know who it is if you're a fan. Do I think they can fit all of what's left of the story in 2 separate films, and the first being only like 90 minutes? Godspeed. But I'm very excited to see them try. I will be in theaters to see it. The story of Hinata is just so charming and important to me, and I think it is exemplary. It's one of my favorite anime of all time. Whereas there's also going to be a Blue Lock movie this month also that centers on Nagi's story, and that to me is an example of a sports anime that I just don't get the uproar over. I honestly feel like it doesn't achieve the same thing that Haikyu does. Will I still see it? Probably, because Quinn and my sister are huge fans, but Haikyu is the one that I'm like gunning towards.
It was really surprising because I was thinking that Demon Slayer had kind of was going to kick off a trend of like story relevant movies, because we had that drop and it made literally all the money. And then shortly after that, we had Jujutsu Kaisen 0. And then the announcement that Haikyu was going to basically wrap itself up in movies. And that was kind of surprising to me that we've basically, outside of getting these finally released, that doesn't seem to be what happened. I wonder what the story is for that. I am curious to see if they do succeed at sticking that landing because of this release. Maybe it'll be better because at least with a movie budget, generally speaking, unless you're Mappa, you get more to work with. So fingers crossed there.
Yeah, no matter what, I think it'll look good. I just know for what it covers and what's left afterwards, it's going to be an uphill challenge, but the team that they have and the writing is strong, that I hope I'm worrying for nothing. Which is kind of my MO.
Yeah. Right. I completely agree. Speaking of my MOs, I don't get to talk about this much on the podcast or in our Discord for people who regularly chat with me there, but I am actually a big tokusatsu fan, and that started of course as a youngster watching the Power Rangers back when Saban was licensing Super Sentai and adapting it for American audiences. So needless to say, I have been hotly anticipating the adaptation of Go Go Loser Ranger. Again, Bob, you should really market these things, man. It's very weird that this is a thing that exists and nobody is talking about it. But Go-Go Loser Ranger is a anime about the grunts, the putties of the big bad kaiju monsters of the Sentai shows. It follows one of them. His name's D, because they're just given letter assignments because they're just grunts. They're just supposed to get punched away and then they get blown up by the ranger team. And in this story, the monsters were defeated over a decade ago. And the grunts have been, because they just can respawn themselves over and over again, they've been conscripted to basically help keep up the illusion that their invasion is continuing. The Sentai heroes that defeated them have been using them in this cycle of violence to basically prop themselves up as celebrities. And it's this whole big thing. They force them into an arena. And this one guy, D, is sick of it. He wants to get back on their original goal, which is, of course, world domination, as you do when you're a monster villain. And so he comes up with this plot, and it is going to be to infiltrate their organization as a human and attempt to get one of their weapons for himself. So he morphs into a human, he joins their recruitment program, and he is going to infiltrate the Power Rangers, for lack of a better word. The first episode premiered just recently. I think it was last week on the 7th. Oh, no, it was actually a couple days ago on the 7th. Sorry. And it was perfect. It was genuinely just a great first episode. Really well done pacing, incredible scenes of both action and dialogue, which is great because half of the characters are like masked with skull faces that just yap up and down. So it takes a lot of animation work to make that work. The transforming effects are cool, and we haven't even seen like the Sentai transformations. This is just the grunt ones. They have this really, really cool title integration with the things that they the things that they bring up. It's very Trigger-esque. Promare comes to mind with the way that it integrates like titles and fourth wall breaks and the occasional like joke. It's extremely tight animation. This one is brought to us by Yostar Pictures, and they've been working on this for a couple of years now. We've known this has been coming for some time. So I'm very excited to finally get to see this. It's a really, really strong start. I'm hoping that it stays that way. It's only 12 episodes, so we'll see how that fits in. It's still an ongoing manga, so there'll presumably be more seasons if it's successful, and I hope it's successful. But again, it's exclusive to Hulu here in the States, and that means it's not anywhere on a page. At least if you search Go-Go Loser Ranger, you will find it, which is not what you could say about Heavenly Delusion last year. So they have improved a little bit, but again, you have to know to look for it. But it's very, very promising. It is easily already one of my favorite things this year. I'm stoked to see more.
Nice. I mean, the Promare comparison was like the easiest way to get me to go and check it out.
It does. It has Promare energy, just with the way that the bodies work and its use of titles. It's very. It's right there. Now I want to watch Promare again, though.
Well, its 5th anniversary is coming up in May, so it's a good time to celebrate it. That can be its own thing, maybe, just putting it out there. But yeah, no, it was on my list to check out. It's just funny, the back and forth of like the shows we're talking about are so different. Because like my next one that I was going to talk about is the Yuri Whisper Me a Love Song that's coming out on the 14th on High Dive. I mean, maybe somebody could find similarities in there somewhere. It's from Cloud Hearts. It's about a girl on her first day of school who kind of falls for her senior. Who is musician. It hasn't come up yet. I haven't seen the manga, but I really like the idea of celebrating these Yuri love stories. We've had a couple of boys' love stories in the last couple of years that have definitely taken a prominence in media, which is awesome. Like Cherry Magic from the winter season was like a shocking surprise and delight of show. I think people should go out and seek it out if they're able to. But I'm just excited to see this one. I love romance anime. I love supporting these kind of stories. I'm curious how it will play out and what kind of budget Cloud Hearts has. I think it's worthwhile just to keep an eye out for at this rate, but just to support and hopefully get more of these stories in the mainstream.
For real, go watch things on High Dive, please. Just like in general, we could stand to still have more than one broadcaster for anime, like a dedicated anime streamer. So every exclusive they get, at least give it a watch to let them know that you're there. That would be grand, in my opinion.
Especially since they just had this huge expansion. And then also, last year they gave us Oshi no Ko, which was a huge hit. They also had shows like Insomniacs After School, which I found very charming. They have this, and then they have one that me and you are both genuinely interested in with the Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night, which you've seen and I haven't yet.
Did you want to say anything more about Whisper Me a Love Song before we talk about that? And I'm going to tell you about Jellyfish.
No, because it's just I haven't seen it and I haven't read the manga it's based on. So beyond like the most general concept, it's more of a like I'm very interested in checking it out. I will be reviewing it for a different website, at least the first 4 episodes. But, it's just one of those ones where it's on my radar. This is why. And I'm hoping it lives up to my kind of baseline expectations.
I hope so too. I think High Dive could really stand to have a success, and one upside of having like a smaller number of like exclusives or like simulcasts is that by default this kind of gets more visibility than you would expect. For example, it's actually already on the High Dive app, ready to go. If you go sign into High Dive, it is #1 there, and it's recently added, even though it hasn't even gone live yet, because they've only got so much to put there. And immediately following that is the other series you mentioned, which is Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night, which I have watched. You have not yet. This is actually from the studio that did Oshinoko, that's Dogo Kobo. And I am immediately smitten with this one as well. I quite liked the first episode. It's very promising setup. The first episode features, it is a high school girl, but a high school girl who has quit doing her art, but was at least successful enough in her art that a jellyfish artwork that she submitted to a contest was turned into a mural in Shibuya. And she kind of frequents this area, kind of is a form of dealing with her baggage, because it turns out her friends didn't really quite like her mural. They thought it was weird. So it made her self-conscious, and she withdrew and stopped doing art and things like that. But one night while she's doing this, she encounters somebody who shouts that she loves this mural, another woman, and is kind of smitten with her. It's not explicitly a romance anime, but I have very big Aquatope and White Sand vibes from this relationship already. And if they're kind, they will pay that off this time. But the other woman is a former idol who has decided to pivot into being a online, like an anonymous music artist. So someone like Ado would come to mind, or other like VTube artists who do music, put out music, but not necessarily show their faces, or they have a persona that goes alongside that. And there's a whole bunch of history there. And this artist kind of is intimidated by, but fascinated by this musician at the same time, because this musician is basically who she wants to be in terms of her creative output. She kind of wants to do art. She wants to get back to doing that, but she feels self-conscious about it. She wants to run away. And the first episode does a really good job of just depicting all of that and kind of bringing that, and then at the end of the episode, kind of bringing them back together on Halloween to kind of like finally challenge that artistic energy. There's going to be 2 more cast members who join later on in the next episode, I believe. So, we'll see how their energies play into this as well. But it's an anime about creativity, about being artists in different ways, and like how to find success at that, to find fulfillment of that, which is, I think, a compelling story, even though it is about younger characters. It does also remind me, if you're a Shonen Jump reader, it reminds me of a manga that they have going right now called Beat in Motion, which more or less has the exact same setup, except it's about college age people. It's kind of funny because Beat in Motion is was a pitch that came after a manga competition. So like this artist actually basically won the right to write this story and automatically get an anime adaptation. And that anime adaptation will now be coming on the heels of something like this, which is just kind of fun to me. It's just like, oh, it kind of got beat to its own idea. But I'm very interested in it. It looks great. If you liked the idol performances in Oshinoko, there is kind of one of those in this first episode. It's quite fun. It's a very different tone than the Oshinoko performances, but it has a lot of that same kind of well done integration between music and camera motion and things like that. So if you liked that, I think you'll like this one.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in this one. And for the record, I don't mind high school set stories. I think specifically with some romances, I just love it. Because again, some of my favorites are, My Love Story or Love is War. Like, I do love that genre. It's just sometimes when you get a taste of like the adult romance stuff, it's nice because it's not often as catered to, especially in the adaptations. But for this one, I'm excited, especially you touching on it's like a love story to people who create art. Some of my favorite anime are, things like Keep Your Hands Off Isaacin, like Blue Period, that really like entrenches itself in what it means to be a creative. And it just looks really well done, like visually. And I think maybe as somebody who's now gotten to like see Shibuya in person, like just seeing how they animate it and how there's such like a love put into the animation and building it out, that it just has this vibrancy based on the previews that seem really appealing to me. It kind of honestly is like my aesthetic. Like if I showed somebody the trailer, they'd be like, okay, no kidding.
You'll like that first episode at least because it does have some really good establishing shots, especially in the very first moments before the title card, of just the lead character walking through shops, browsing, looking at things. The city lights, the walls, the graffiti, like it has an ambience all to itself. It feels like a real place, even though it is obviously a fictionalized version, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited.
I was gonna say, I know you have a bone to pick with things, but I'm gonna tackle one last thing before I let you kind of close us out with your reverse recommend.
My only thing that I was going to say that's not a reverse recommendation is that I do think people should remember to check out the season 3 of Laid Back Camp. I'm still in season 1, so it's a weird recommendation, but it's just like healing. And then also Sound Euphonium season 3, which I'm still kind of digging into, but I love Liz and the Bluebird, and I will go to bat for one studio, and that is Kyoto Animation. I think their stuff is just often gorgeous, but those are 2 quick hits, mainly because I'm still in the process of catching up myself, so I don't want to go deep into what I can't really vouch for, especially for female-led stories. I mean, yeah. But okay, you do your last, like...
Yeah, so we were just talking about how sometimes there's stories that are just about youths, and they're great, but you get a taste of being an adult, and you kind of just want that. Well, I've got a series for you. It's called Kaiju number 8, and I hope it's not bad. Oh, I hope it's not bad.
I can't believe I forgot we hadn't talked about that.
We hadn't talked about it yet. What else does he have? poor Ali has heard me whinge about Kaiju number 8 for months now, and I haven't gotten to too much on the podcast yet, but I'm a big fan of the Kaiju number 8 manga. The pitch is this 30-something burnout who wanted to join the Japan Defense Forces to fight against regular kaiju incursions in Japan. He never does. He washes out. His closest friend ends up becoming like one of the most decorated members of the squad. They were going to do it together. He just kind of ends up doing cleanup crew stuff after the fact. But a chance encounter with a headstrong, young, I'm gonna, be the next hero guy, and a strange, small, talking kaiju leads to him getting the ability to transform into a human-sized kaiju with one of the highest power ratings that the Japan Defense Forces has ever seen. And that's why they call it Kaiju number 8. He is the 8th one of this kind of scale that has ever been encountered. So he decides, now that he has the ability to be strong and physically capable, he's going to try it again. So he tries to join the military while also not revealing that he can turn into the things that they want to kill. And that's more or less the show. There's a lot more obviously once it starts getting going, but that's the pitch. And my favorite part about it is in fact that the main character, whose name is Kafka, haha, get it? It's a story about a guy who thought he wasn't going to be able to make anything of himself and just kind of accepted his fate as a menial worker until he was done working, basically. That he could still chase his dreams, that he can still change who he wants to be, and that he can, with the right motivation, put the work in. And Kaiju number 8 is over and over again about that, about putting the work in to improve yourself, regardless of your age, regardless of your station, regardless of your own baggage or even your personality. Like you have to put the work in. Even if you're special, you have to put the work in. So it's been a great story. It has some highs and lows in the manga, but when it comes to fights, there's nothing really quite like it because it's about kaiju. Its power system is very fascinating. They're still revealing things about how that works, by the way. As for the anime, I don't know what they're doing with this. I really don't. There have been some choices made about this production. It is being broadcast on Crunchyroll, so you can check it out there. But if you're a real weird person, you can also watch it on Twitter. For some reason, not sure why, video barely works on Twitter as it is. Video barely worked on Twitter before Twitter was completely ruined. So this is a choice that I don't really understand. There's other things that I kind of have issues with. They brought in the character designer from the Naruto anime to do the character design for this show, and I understand that because they're good at their job. The Naruto designs are some of the most iconic anime designs of all time. People who have never seen an episode of Naruto can recognize a Naruto character. So, that's notwithstanding that impact, but it really does feel like the edges have been sanded off the human characters in this series quite a bit to make them more palatable. On that note, the OPs have music from like One Republic, and I think I saw Imagine Dragons mentioned in one of the releases. It really feels like they want this to be a big freaking deal in the West, and I would personally love that. We have run a piece on our site saying this could be the next big thing. I just don't know if it's worth all these compromises and weird choices. And so I'm very nervous about how this turns out, really. But I really want it to succeed. I really want it to win because it is a really good story.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I will be covering it for not this site, but somewhere else. And I think it will be kind of fun to read our reviews because I believe you're covering it for us also.
Yeah,
so I think it'll be fun to kind of see the two different, not approaches, but like I'm coming from it as a new person. But I did see the One Republic thing and I was like, why?
It's a choice. It's a choice.
But I also hope it's good because I hope most things that I check out are good. And if I don't think they're going to be, usually I'm not trying to check them out. I stay away.
On that note.
Ugh. Well, yeah, this is one where I didn't go in with hope. I was, just covering the premiere. I don't know how many people are going to see the title Grandpa and Grandma Turn Young Again and be like, oh man, this is the anime for me. It's garbage. Absolute trash. And I've only seen one episode. And I think this is what you would classify as a gag anime, I believe is the term you said, where it's like specifically for the joke, in service of the joke and very little else. And I have shows where like I like this vignette style, like The Disastrous Life of Psyche K is one of my favorites of all time, and it kind of operates in a similar form, but this just like pushes my buttons. And it introduces this premise in a way that seems very grounded at first, with like the grandfather character being like, I wish I could have given my wife a better life. I wish we could do it over. But then once it has the do-over chance, it like erases all of that sense of depth and goes straight into just jokes. So I just wish, one, they had chosen a lane and stuck to it, and maybe they will in ongoing episodes. But then also like the artwork and the character designs are kind of crude and severe, but the thing that tips me over the edge was the fact that there's now a grandfather complex in the story, where like I feel like anime watchers get kind of, unfortunately, used to like these kind of storylines or characters, but they're usually not like main characters. But yeah, it's like the granddaughter sees her young grandfather and it's like, he's hot. And it really bothered me, as I think it should. Don't watch the show. It sucks.
You said at the beginning, like, I don't know if anybody would hear this title and think like, oh, I'm gonna check this out. And
We
meanwhile,
do know somebody.
we do know somebody. I warned y'all at the top that there would be some Jon slander in the episode, and we have reached that point. This does sound like something Jon would watch and then like try to find the beauty of, if only because to do it as a bit for me.
I hope he does, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on it. But I did watch it. I gave it my all, and I thought it was trash. But yes, no, I do know there are those people, John, that would maybe check it out in all sincerity and, take something positive away from it. It's just not me.
Yeah, taste is indeed subjective, which is where I will start to point to you, the listener. What anime this season are you looking forward to, or you've watched? Whether it's something we talked about here or something that we didn't get a chance to cover, because lordy, is there a bunch of things we did not cover? Things like the Fable, Mission Yozakura families coming out this season.
There's a golf anime.
There's a golf anime, there's Remonster, there's so many things that we just haven't had a chance to talk about yet, and we may talk about in the future. But this episode was actually inspired by a recommendation in our Discord, so we are in there, we are listening to you. Please join us. Let us know what you think about the season and what else you'd like to see. One Piece is off still for the next little bit, so we will be back soon with a new anime roundtable. I'm going to keep what the anime it's about is a surprise, but it's a fun one. And other than that, Allie, thanks as always for coming on and talking about anime with me.
Thanks for letting me and, suffering through my picks, not suffering through my picks and all that.
Oh no, your picks are probably better than mine, let's be honest. Mine are all like, do an anime punch. So,
no.
and Spice and Wolf, punching and Spice and Wolf. That's my seasonal recommendation in a nutshell. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.